Welcome back to the Real Arsenal Deal. This is Rav, your host. Thank you so much for joining. And look, this is going to be a tough one. It's a tough one. I'm recording this just a few hours after watching Arsenal crash out of the Carabao Cup. There's not really much we can complain about in terms of the overall result. Newcastle, over the course of the two legs, they were the better team. And most importantly, they took their chances. I think post-match, the XG philosophy account, they posted that the aggregate XG over the two legs was Newcastle. They scored 4 goals off about 3.7 XG. Arsenal 0 off something similar, or perhaps just slightly higher. And look, ultimately, as sophisticated as football has become, and as good as Arsenal are, as strong as we are across the board, unfortunately, you don't take your chances. And that's football, isn't it? Arteta usually, he refers to the matches won or lost in the boxes. He uses that reference quite a lot in his press conferences, and I think that's really encapsulated today. In fact, you couldn't have a better example of it. Of Odegaard hitting the post from almost point blank range. Yes, he's on his right foot, and yes, there was a defender sliding across. However, his shot, look, it's hard to blame him for not scoring it. However, over the course of the tie, when you needed the goal, that was the one. We needed that. It glances off the post. Less than a minute later, Isak does similar in their box or towards their box. And it just so happens that the ball crashes off the post back into play, and it's tucked away very nicely by Murphy, I believe. And look, that's football, huh? It's just it's unfortunate. It happened in the blink, and 3-0 down in the tie. That was effectively that. Look, so going back to what I was saying a moment ago, that overall we didn't take our chances. We just unfortunately didn't. And while many point to the lack of a clinical striker and the fact that we weren't active in January, or we didn't sign anyone to strengthen, we've obviously lost some key players in that department. Martinelli has done his hamstring now as well, which I'll come back to a little later. So it stretches us even further. As much as you can point to all those things, all those valid things, we still created lots. I tell you what, over the two legs of these two semi-final matches at the Emirates in here, we created a fair bit, and we just didn't convert. We didn't capitalize, and Newcastle did, and that's that. I will also say you have to give credit where it's due. Their press, their intensity, we just couldn't match it. I've read, maybe harshly, I've heard people refer to Arsenal's performances like we crumbled, we collapsed under the pressure. And look, maybe, I don't know. It sounds harsh of me to concede that, because just 3 days ago, in a high pressure cooker of a match against Manchester City, we thumped them 5-1. So it's hard for me just to say this team collapsed. So I'll try to rationalize some of these key talking points. And overall, this is not easy. This is a difficult result to take. This is a tough one to come on and record, because I had a tremendous feeling about this. I really did. I looked at just the energy, the intensity, the momentum generated of what we produced against City. It was tangible. You saw it in the players. You saw the buzz. You saw the crowd. You saw the smiles on everyone's faces. Everyone was involved. What really stood out to me is that enthusiasm from the teenagers, from our Hale End boys. I saw Raheem Sterling smiling ear to ear. He was so happy. He was so thrilled for Wanyeri and Mars Lewis-Skelly. And I actually think I didn't mention it in my previous match pod, but I wanted to call that out, because I think Sterling, I know he hasn't produced on the field, and the reality is we're going to need him to in the second half of the season with how many minutes is going to be available for our forwards already stretched. I actually think he's a really good figure to have in the group, in the squad, because he himself has been through all of this, breaking through into the senior team at such a young age, 16, 17, when he first came onto the scene at Liverpool, and then of course with the England setup. And we saw what happened with look, I have to call it what it is. There is institutional racism involved with the way certain players are targeted and the way they're covered in the media. Sterling's certainly been victim to it. Rashford, Saka, I mean, how far we can just go back decades and decades, right? All these people of colour, how they get treated differently in the spotlight. So I think Sterling's excellent to have there, especially with some of the coverage we've seen of Lewis Skelly with his celebrations, the Haaland celebration. So look, I've probably diverted a little bit here from the match itself, but the point I was reaching is that I had an excellent feeling about this match. I thought there's such momentum we've got here that we're going to bring that forward into this match. We're going to come at flying out the blocks. We're going to match them duel for duel, and if we got an early chance, and if we scored early, this match is on like Donkey Kong. I just had a feeling, even if we just absorbed the pressure, took the crowd out of the equation, who were fantastic, by the way. The atmosphere was incredible. If we just absorbed that and channeled it through, got through, and I just had a feeling that if we scored the first goal, they would have been nervous. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. That chance fell to Odegaard. Mind you, I should say, early on, Newcastle did score, and geez, the celebrations were absolutely raucous. It was a tight offside, and we got a break there. We got a bit of luck. Isak seems to save his best for Arsenal. In fact, I wanted to talk a wider point here. I believe Newcastle really saved their best for us. No matter what their previous results or where they're placed on the table, we just seem to bring out their best. I get it. Someone who's close to that area, who's an Arsenal fan as well, explained it to me that there's just such a distaste, a dislike of Arsenal, from the Newcastle region. Maybe it is just what we represent, and being such a diverse club from London, I don't quite know what it is exactly. Can't quite put my finger on it. But boy, they seem to save their best for us. They leave plenty in the tackles. The crowd are baying for blood at times, all right? And it was a real pressure cooker in that atmosphere, and we didn't match them. Their press was very intense, very intense. I've got a separate point here to make about some real unusual mistakes that we saw on display tonight from Arsenal. Raya, I mean, what can I say about that second goal? Yes, it's the risk we take with the chosen way we choose to play. If anything, we do really well not to concede moments or goals like this on a more frequent basis. So that's a testament to the level of skill and discipline and training that's involved behind the scenes for us to play the way we do at the back. When it doesn't come off though, like today, it looks silly, doesn't it? It looks absolutely awful, and it was not a good pass. It was not a good moment from Raya. Rice was swarmed and take your pick, and they scored, and that was basically the icing on the cake for Newcastle. Just a few minutes before that, there was also another moment really unusual from Saliba. Saliba was just caught at the back. He was just too slow for some reason. So unusual. I hardly ever see Arsenal like this anymore. That jittery nervousness, unclean possession from the back, losing a bit of composure and focus. It's very unusual. These are very highly skilled, high caliber footballers, elite footballers. Saliba, Raya, I mean, they're fantastic at what they do, and they've proven that time and time again. So something clearly was not right today, and it was perhaps. I don't want to single any particular players out, of course. That's not what I'm about. It was on display. It was evident throughout the group that there was just something off tonight or this morning, depending on where you're watching in the world. It was a 7 a.m. kickoff over here in Australia for us. So coming into this morning, I feel really good about this match. I thought that intensity would be there. We would match them, and we would get the job done. So I actually think now, I'm thinking about it further, is that the victory against City, it really took it out of us. I think there was a lot of emotional expenditure, and I don't want to make it all about that one game, that City match. And clearly there was a lot of feeling behind that. It was simmering since the match at the Etihad a few months ago. Clearly we owed them, and clearly this was on the players' minds that they wanted to make that statement win, and boy did we, and that was fantastic. And if anything, that would have been the match, right? That would have been the match to sign off on. before Dubai, before this break that we're now about to embark on, enjoy. To back that up, just a few days later in another high pressure atmosphere, Newcastle were waiting for us. The crowd was waiting for us. We were clearly tired. We expended a lot of energy physically and emotionally. And there were just some sore, stiff bodies. We saw that. Like, we just weren't sharp. We just weren't quite there. And sometimes, being that 2%, 5%, 10% off, sometimes at this level, that's everything. That makes all the difference. And it was ominous from the opening minutes that I just thought there's something off here. And which brings me to the next point. We need to talk about selection. Selection was, on the minds of many. We were wondering, what's Arteta going to do? Is Wanyeri going to start? Should Calafiori play this one? And look, it's one of those things where I also heard people saying that we're never going to win this. Like, we've got to rest the players. Take some of them out of the firing line. Like, what's the point trying to risk further injury, etc.? We're never going to win this. And I just need to push back on that one a little bit. Because as much as I understand the need from the outside to protect the players and just concede the tie, so to speak, it doesn't really work that way inside the club, does it? The players want to play. I reckon they wanted to. That they felt the need to go to Newcastle and atone for not just for the first league, but also that the league match that we've kind of forgotten about a few months ago. We were awful that night against Newcastle, and they would deserve winners there. I reckon, as we know, Arteta and the players, they have a long memory. There is a bit of a retribution element to this squad. It sometimes brings out the best in the performances, and the players, I reckon, they would have wanted to play. There's a cup final on the line, and there's pride at stake, and we wanted to go and dish out some of that back to them. So it's hard to just all of a sudden heavily rotate the lineup as much as you can, because look, we've got to be honest too. Like, in terms of the forwards, who can we really bring in? Are we going to start Sterling in this one? Ethan obviously was a prime candidate, but there's no rotation for Kai throughout the defenders. The main selection to make is at left back, right? Midfield, you've got a few options. Is Marino going to start this one? I don't think so. Jorginho is probably the prime candidate. We saw how well the Rice-Odegaard party combination absolutely bossed City just a few days ago. So in terms of rotation, we're heavily stretched as it is. If he was to rotate, you're talking 2 changes maybe at most, 2, perhaps 3, depending. It just wasn't the type of luxury that we've now got, where we can just, rotate out make a raft of changes and take some key players out of the firing line. Again, because of how stretched the squad is, but also, if you would have asked the players, I reckon all of them would have been putting their hand up saying, I want to be in this, I want to get the job done. That's just mentality. That's pride that comes at stake. The players want to play, and I understand, again, when it doesn't come off and Martinelli gets injured, question marks straight away go to, well, why the hell is he playing? You look at his workload and look how many minutes he's played, and Trossard got crunched by an awful challenge into his ankles, and he was hobbling. He wasn't the same since, and people would understandably be like, get them out, get them off. But who are we going to bring on? And what type of message does it send that if Arteta just concedes the tie, throws away the tie, can you imagine the fallout? I mean, the narrative, they're going to come for Arsenal anyway, right? All these media pundits who I pay little attention to, but we know what the headlines are going to be. They're all going to be queuing up, lining up. Ha ha, Arsenal, so-called elite mentality, elite club trying to win stuff. They basically just throw away the tie. They think they can't win, so they're taking out their best players. I mean, you can't win. We can't win this one. And or alternatively, if we heavily rotated and we came within an inch of winning, say we needed 1 goal, or say it was so close, or we crashed out on penalties, then again the narrative is, well, why didn't you play his best players? Why didn't you start all the guys who scored 5 against City just a few days ago? What are you doing? So you can't really win, unfortunately. There's no way to satisfy all of that different criteria. I think all Arteta had his eyes on was a cup final, and the players had similar sentiments, and they wanted to play and they went for it. Sadly, it's backfired. And to compound matters, to add insult to injury, as the saying goes, Martinelli. Well, look, I'm certainly no expert. I've had plenty of sports injuries myself. I've got a long history of sport and powerlifting. I've done my ACLs and I've done soft tissue injuries, broken bones. When he held high on his hamstring, I thought, damn, that's, and he needed assistance, right? This wasn't a situation where he could just, lightly walk or jog off the pitch unassisted, and you start to forensically look at these things. You say, it looks like a light strain or a niggle or cramp. My initial feeling is that this is a bad one. This is a nasty one. It's looking like, a few weeks out. Arteta's referenced he needs to have an MRI and understand the severity of the injury. And look, it's just we don't need it, of course. Martinelli's been excellent lately, and him and Trossard, Kai, they're shouldering so much responsibility, too much. You saw how much we needed strengthening. We needed support. The manager called for it. He needed help. And there's been all sorts of explanations and rationales about why we weren't active in January, why we chose not to sign anyone. And again, I understand it, and it's a calculated gamble. We've got a mountain to climb these next few months, and one of the assumptions, what it's predicated on, is everyone staying fit. And the very next match after the January window slams shut, and they always say it slams shut, it's quite a funny reference, but the very next match, then Martinelli goes down in an area of the pitch so where we can ill afford any more injuries. So look, we have to wait and see on that one. Yes, Dubai's coming. We've got a couple of weeks off, and then the fixture schedule will ease. I believe it's not going to be as hectic as it's been. It's something like 11 games in January, late December to January, 11 games in 34 or 35 days. So that's just madness. That is so wild. So many of them, so many high pressure, high intensity matches. It's incredible, the load on these players, the demands of them. It's not fair. You're right. It's just not. It's the reality of our sport and the industry. And yes, of course, they're paid handsomely, and I understand people always immediately point to that. Still human beings, right? The body can only take so much, and they're spilling their tank out there. Kai Havertz, even into the last minute or two, he's still throwing his body around, right? Trying to win duels, trying to do his bit for the team, and we're asking him to do that for another 3 or 4 months, basically by himself. It shouldn't be like this, but unfortunately, it is. So the club really, really needs a refresh. Dubai can't come soon enough. It's been all but confirmed. I believe they're traveling out there tomorrow for maybe 6-7 days, warm weather training. Arteta does really well to get the families out there too. His family will come as well, I imagine. Just enjoy a bit of sun, warm weather. Just take it a little bit easy, be able to look after the bodies. I'm sure the physios and the massage therapists are going to go there too. They're going to be busy, right? You've got to look after these players. We've got to invest in their mental health now as well as their physical health. They really, really need a recharge and a refresh. And we saw the impact of that last season, right? We saw it, how it translated onto the pitch. Just before I wrap up here, I also want to just point out again, Alexander Isak. What a footballer. What a footballer. He's the complete package almost. And I understand why so many Arsenal fans pined for him. Him in this Arsenal team, oh God, can you imagine? I salivate. He's an unbelievable footballer. He always seems to save his best as well for Arsenal. Maybe there's a bit of a chip on the shoulder there too. I don't quite know. A little bit of a the kind of performance where he just reminds us, you could have had me, but you chose not to, and here's what I can do. He really, really caused Saliba problems today. Again, going back to what I touched on earlier, the unusual mistakes, unusual characteristics from the Arsenal defence, how wide open we were, how split open we were. I think a lot of that needs to be credited to Isak. He caused them all sorts of problems. The type of problems that not many other forwards do. And my goodness, how many of them that Saliba and Gabriel and Raya and Timber and everyone else, how many of them have they just come and got, have seen and flicked aside, have pocketed them? So many. Even Haaland, really, aside from his excellent goal on the weekend, he's barely had a sniff. We go up against the best, and these guys, our defenders, they take care of them. They take care of business. Isak today caused a hell of a lot of problems, and I just think it's just one of those wild dreams for him to. As much as I'd love to be proven wrong, I'd love to see him in the Arsenal 14 shirt. Please don't get me wrong. He would be a dream signing. But you see how much Newcastle dislike us. If Isak's price tag is 100 and 105, 110 million pounds, like on the market, if they were to sell him, add another 20, 30 on Arsenal as a premium, just as a basically screw you, Arsenal. I just don't see it happening. I don't see the club committing that amount of resources to the one player. So I think this feeds into, maybe we've learned some lessons there, why we're going so hard for Šeško. Now, Šeško, will he be as good? I don't know. But the reality is that you've got to sign them before they're that good. Because when they hit that peak, when they hit that world-class mark, they're beyond. Their price tag doubles. It absolutely balloons out. It takes us out of the equation. You know, you're talking like only a very small handful of clubs can then afford them to prize them away, not only in terms of transfer fee, commissions, agents' fees, wages. It really leaves just maybe 2 or 3 clubs who can do that. Real Madrid, Manchester City, etc., etc. It takes us off the table. Of course, Chelsea, of course, they'll pay anyone anything, as we've seen. But from Arsenal point of view, I think this is why we're going so hard for Šeško. If he ticks all the boxes, if he's the profile we're looking for, he may not be the finished article just yet. But if we believe that under our coaching, under our system, under our mentorship, under Arteta's watch, that we can develop him to hit that level, hit that target in 18 months, 2 years, whatever, he's the one. I reckon we go all out for him. And I think that's why they've chosen to not, buy someone else if it means coming at the cost of not being able to finalize a transaction for him come the summer window. I hope I'm right in that. And look, of course, only time will tell. We're going to have to wait a few months on that one. But for now, we have who we have, and who we have are pretty damn good. This is a special Arsenal team. There's a lot still to play for. As much as this hurts, as much as this one hurts me to record and reflect on, how the manner of which we've bowed out this morning, we're second in the Premier League. We are in the Champions League round of 16. We're about to go to Dubai. Hopefully, the Martinelli injury isn't too bad, but can we manage just a couple of matches without him post Dubai? The fixture congestion will ease off. We hopefully have some returning players. White will come back. What does that mean for our backline? Does it release Lewis Skelly maybe a little bit to come a bit more forward? I don't quite know. There's a few moving pieces here, like on a chessboard, so to speak, that I'm sure Arteta is formulating in his head, and now he's got the time with the coaching staff over the next, I think, 12, 13 days before we play Leicester. He'll have the time and the capacity to figure all this out. And then, of course, can we remain in the room of the league, can we remain in the conversation come March, and hopefully Bukayo is back? I mean, what a boost that would be, right? I mean, there's still so much to play for, right? So as much as this sucks, and it absolutely does, right? Please don't despair. This is why I wanted to come on now. This is a bit of therapy for me too, right? To process, to compartmentalize my feelings and try and put this behind us. As much as it stings, don't get me wrong. I'm not just saying, this is irrelevant, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. I'm not doing that. This does suck and it hurts, and you can see the players were hurting. We need a refresh. We need a break. We need to reinvest in the players' health, their emotional health, their mental health, and their physical health. We need players back, and we're going to get that. We've got an excellent platform here in the remaining 3-4 months of the season. I truly believe that it's going to end as we want it to. I have to believe, because they give me so much belief. What I'm seeing from the players, or what I'm seeing from their performances and their mentality. So there's a lot still to play for. So don't despair too much, Arsenal fans. I think I'll leave it there for now. There's obviously going to be plenty more to discuss in the next few days. We'll wait to hear a bit more about Martinelli's injury and some further injury updates from Dubai and whatnot. But look, for now, thank you so much for listening. I'm still fairly new to this format, so please, all comments are welcome, all feedback, suggestions. Please reach out to me, comment, like, subscribe. I would be so grateful. I would be most appreciative. Thank you so much. If any of this helped you, please let me know as well. I'm wanting to be more active in this space, record some more content, and I very much welcome any feedback. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. And as always, come on, Arsenal. We got this.